Hello there, you're watching All 24 News World News program, and up next are tonight's top stories. The Sultan of Oman is in Algeria for a two-day state visit as both countries work to boost ties, focusing on petrochemicals and taking steps toward creating a joint investment fund. Coming up next, the Arab Parliamentary Union wrapped up its 38th conference in Algeria, reaffirming a united Arab stance in support of the Palestinian cause. Also ahead, 21 martyrs in a Zionist strike on Khan Younis in Gaza Strip. Gaza hospitals may run out of fuel in 3 days as UNRWA warns of a looming humanitarian disaster. And later on, Moroccan groups slammed the Makhzen for protecting those linked to the genocide in Palestine. Activists accuse it of backing efforts to demolish Al-Aqsa Mosque and using normalization to tighten its grip on power. Full reports up next. Welcome back to the program. Leading on news tonight, Sultan Haytham bin Tariq of Oman began a two-day state visit to Algeria on Sunday at the invitation of President Abdelmajid Tebboune. President of the Republic welcomed the Sultan at Houari Boumediene International Airport with official reception, attended by senior state officials and members of the government. The two leaders stood for the national anthems before reviewing a military parade by Algeria's armed forces as a 21-gun salute honored the Sultan's arrival. President Tebboune also greeted members of the delegation accompanying the Omani leader. On a related note, President Abdelmajid Tebboune held bilateral talks with Sultan Haytham bin Tariq of Oman on Sunday in the VIP lounge of Algiers International Airport. Following the meeting, Arab ambassadors and diplomatic representatives greeted the Sultan and President Tebboune, underscoring the regional significance of the Omani leader's visit. Algeria and Oman are working to deepen economic ties by boosting cooperation in key sectors and reinforcing their strategic partnership. A prime example is the $3 billion ammonia and urea production complex in Oran, a joint project between Algeria's Sonatrach and Oman's Bahwan Group, which stands as a cornerstone of the growing Algeria-Muscat alliance. Similarly, Algeria and Oman aim to launch a joint investment fund, building on their shared vision for stronger economic cooperation. Ties between the two countries are framed by a series of bilateral agreements, including the Joint Committee established in 1991, which has held 9 sessions and resulted in over 30 cooperation deals. On the diplomatic front, Algeria and Japan reaffirmed their commitment on Sunday to strengthening economic ties in line with their shared development priorities. The announcement followed a meeting in Algiers between Algerian Minister of State and Foreign Minister Ahmed Attaf and Japan's Deputy Foreign Minister Hisashi Matsumoto, who is on an official visit. The talks reviewed the outcomes of the Algerian-Japanese Joint Governmental Economic Committee, whose first session was held the same day. Both sides also exchanged views on key international and regional issues, including the latest developments in the Palestinian cause. On a different note, Algeria's National People's Assembly Speaker and President of the Arab Parliamentary Union, Ibrahim Boughali, announced the adoption of the Algiers Declaration at the close of the 38th Arab Parliamentary Union Conference. Speaking at a press conference at the International Conference Center in Algiers, Boughali highlighted the rich and democratic nature of the discussions, noting that the Palestinian cause, seen as the central issue of the Arab nation, was a major focus of the debates.
I would like to highlight the overall atmosphere that prevailed during the conference, which was marked by rich, constructive and democratic discussions, whether during the meeting of the Executive Committee, the consultative meeting with heads of delegations, or the various sessions of the conference. During yesterday's and today's sessions, we dedicated significant time to discussing a range of important topics in a highly fruitful manner. We provided space for everyone to freely and transparently express their ideas. The Palestinian cause, as the central issue of the Arab nation, received special attention and was thoroughly discussed.
Meanwhile, Algerian Parliament Speaker and the President of the Arab Parliamentary Union, Ibrahim Boughali, affirmed that the 38th Arab Parliamentary Union Conference focused on building a unified Arab stance in support of the Palestinian struggle. He said the two-day meeting tackled ways to counter plans that liquidate the Palestinian cause and reject efforts to bypass international legitimacy, stressing that the two-state solution remains the only acceptable path to ending the conflict.
Efforts were made to develop a unified Arab parliamentary stance in support of the Palestinian people's struggle and to confront the plans targeting their cause, as well as the attempts to bypass international legitimacy and marginalize the two-state solution, which remains the only acceptable framework for resolving this conflict. It is worth noting that the members of the Arab Parliament who represented us at the 150th session of the Interparliamentary Union played a strong role in promoting and securing the adoption of the two-state solution within the Peace and Security Committee, an achievement considered a gain for the Palestinian cause. Similarly, members of the Algerian People's National Assembly contributed significantly to the adoption of this resolution during the same session, marking another important step forward in the recent efforts led by Arab parliamentarians.
Additionally, Ibrahim Boughali announced changes to the Arab Parliamentary Union's charter to boost its regional and global influence. He emphasized the need for practical initiatives and strong positions to improve the Union's role in tackling regional issues.
In the same context, we also discussed ways to enhance the functioning of the Arab Interparliamentarian Union and strengthen its role and standing at both the regional and international levels. Within this framework, a number of amendments to the Union's charter were adopted to enable it to keep pace with emerging developments. It is well known that the Arab Interparliamentary Union was established in 1974. However, during this past year, since Algeria assumed the presidency, we have introduced several corrections to ensure the Union adapts to the ongoing changes on both regional and global fronts.
Shifting focus to the Zionist war on Gaza Strip, occupation shelling in Khan Yunis has killed 21 Palestinians, including women and children. The Palestinian Information Center reported that 13 displaced people, including 7 women and 2 children, were killed when a tent in Al-Mawasi was struck. A couple and their child were also killed in an airstrike on their apartment early Sunday morning in the same area. In northern Gaza, 4 Palestinians were killed and several injured in bombings targeting Gaza City. 3 were killed in a house bombing and another in Deir or Beit Hanun. Dozens were also injured when an occupation airstrike hit a gathering in Jabalia al-Balad. In the central Gaza Strip, at least 2 Palestinians were killed and many more others injured in an occupation attack on the Nusayrat refugee camp, with medical sources confirming a high number of casualties. In the wake of the devastating toll in the Strip, Gaza's health ministry reported 40 Palestinians killed and 125 wounded in the past 24 hours alone as the occupation aggression continues, pushing the death toll, or the total death toll, to 52,535, with 118,491 wounded. Since the Zionist war began, the ministry noted a sharp escalation since March 18 alone, with 2,436 martyrs and 6,450 injured in the occupation's war of extermination against the besieged territory. In Palestine still, the Palestinian Ministry of Health on Sunday warned that the hospitals in Gaza could run out of fuel within 3 days. The ministry stated that the Zionist occupation's obstruction of fuel supplies threatens to shut down hospitals, which rely on generators to keep vital departments running. On a related note, the United Nations Relief and Works Agency for Palestine's refugees, UNRWA, renewed its call for an immediate ceasefire to prevent humanitarian disaster in Gaza. In a post on X platform, the agency described the situation as beyond imagination and emphasized the need for global efforts to halt its deterioration as the blockade and closure of crossings enter their 9th week. All the way to Morocco, the Moroccan Observatory Against Normalization accused the Moroccan government of shielding Moroccan Zionists who are involved in the genocide of Palestinians. In an online debate, the observatory's Secretary General Aziz Hannawi criticized the state handling of these individuals, describing them as Zionist terrorists above the law. He called for revoking their citizenship and prosecuting them similar to the treatment of Moroccans linked to ISIS. Hannawi also condemned the Moroccan Ministry of Islamic Affairs for participating in an official event in occupied Palestine that called for the demolition of Al-Aqsa Mosque, highlighting what he sees as Zionist influence within Morocco's institutions.
There is no public sector in Morocco, whether military, intelligence, prison, education, interior, culture, diplomacy, agriculture, theater, economy, higher education, health, or even the Ministry of Religious Affairs that is not influenced by Israeli control. All of these are being used to develop a dangerous activity in the far east of the New World, with Israel as the guest of honor. The Director of Foreign Relations for this activity calls for the demolition of Al-Aqsa Mosque and the construction of the Jewish temple.
The Moroccan activists have asserted that the Makhzen regime is eager to normalize relations with the Zionist entity across various sectors. Lotfi Tawil, a member of the Moroccan Justice and Charity Youth, stated that the regime has opened the door to Zionists in multiple areas, ostensibly to benefit from their expertise, but in reality to appease them.
Can we not consider that the December 10, 2020 agreement, which was followed by other agreements and diplomatic missions encompassing various fields, come as a result of a request from the Moroccan Makhzen, which began to feel the danger threatening and undermining its foundations, especially after the growing public awareness of the need for real change since the Arab Spring? The opening of the door to the Zionists and the rush, even the scramble toward the entity to sign agreements and organize missions in various fields under the pretext of benefiting from expertise, this is more accurately described as profiteering than it is as infiltration.
Moving on to Libya now, 20 Libyan political parties have strongly condemned the Trump administration's plan to deport immigrants with criminal records from the United States to Libya, calling it a violation of their country's sovereignty. In a joint statement Saturday, the parties urged Libyan authorities to formally reject the proposal, saying that Libya, still struggling with war and instability, should not be treated as a dumping ground for other nations' problems. They warned against exploiting Libya's fragile security and economic situation for foreign policy experiments. Still with Africa-related news, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, where the M23 group, after seizing control of key eastern cities, is facing a new challenge: governance. With banks shuttered, prices soaring, and new taxes imposed, the group is trying to jumpstart a local economy devastated by wars of conflict. Zarfar Jani reports now.
In the mineral-rich hills of eastern Congo, conflict and control over resources continue to shape daily life. The M23 group now controls key coltan mining areas in Rubaya, disrupting not only local mining but also everyday trade in nearby cities like Goma and Bukavu. In Rubaya, Miners work in flooded hillsides, digging for coltan, the precious mineral that powers smartphones and modern electronics. The pits are now under the control of M23 Group, who is taxing production at 15%.
We have serious problems with the taxes. Customers no longer come, but at the end of each month, we are still asked to pay the Nanga tax. It's becoming very difficult for us to find the money to pay this tax.
Beyond the hills, the economic toll ripples through cities under the M23 influence. In Goma and Bukavu, most banks are shut down, and market vendors face steep new taxes from the M23 administrators.
Our situation has changed since we fled the war. We were doing well before, but now everything has changed. Regarding bananas, the tax has increased. Now we pay 1,000 Congolese francs per bunch at the departure point, and another 1,000 francs upon arrival at the destination, so that 2,000 francs for transport. In addition, we also pay the port at 500 francs. This is how things have changed because of these rebels and their multiple taxes. They can bring you a basket of lemons for 20,000 francs, but it will take more than 3 days before you can sell it, all because the city is experiencing a major crisis. The banks are not operational, we're not selling, but there are no buyers because there are few people in a city who can afford to buy. That's our current difficulty. We lay out the goods, but there are no customers.
While coltan from rebel-held mines continues to feed the global tech economy, ordinary Congolese are the ones suffering the consequences.
Moving on to another topic on news, Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky revealed ongoing negotiations aimed at pressuring Russia to reach a permanent ceasefire. In a video posted on X platform, Zelensky highlighted that a truce lasting over 30 days would give both Russia and Ukraine the opportunity to find a way out of the war.
We believe that ceasefire is possible at any moment, even starting today, and should last for at least 30 days to give diplomacy a real chance.
And on the latest updates on this file, Russian President Vladimir Putin stated Sunday that Moscow hopes to avoid using nuclear weapons in Ukraine, insisting such measures won't be necessary to achieve its military objectives. During a state TV interview, Putin stated that Russia possesses sufficient conventional capabilities to succeed in its special military operation without resorting to its nuclear arsenal.
They wanted to provoke us. You said it yourself, they wanted us to make mistakes. There was no need to use the weapons you spoke about. And I hope they will not be required. We have enough strength and means to bring what was started in 2022 to a logical conclusion with the outcome Russia requires.
Washington and Kiev have struck a high-stakes minerals deal that could reshape Ukraine's post-war recovery and redraw the map of global resource power. At the heart of it, critical minerals, billions in future investments. More on this story with Yasin Urkti.
There's something big brewing between Washington and Kiev, and this time it's all about minerals and money. On Wednesday, top officials from both countries signed a strategic agreement that gives the US preferential access to Ukraine's rich reserves of critical minerals in return for financial and military support down the line.
This marks an important milestone in Ukraine-US strategic partnership aimed at strengthening Ukraine's economy and security. We discussed recent diplomatic efforts and the next steps to achieve a fair and lasting peace. We also exchanged updates on the preparations for the EU minister's visit to Ukraine on May 9th, grateful to the EU for its solidarity and steadfast support.
The deal kicks off the US-Ukraine Reinvestment Fund. Think of it as a future-focused pot of gold that both countries will feed into.
This partnership allows the United States to invest alongside Ukraine to unlock Ukraine's growth assets, mobilize American talent, capital, and governance standards that will improve Ukraine's investment climate and accelerate Ukraine's economic recovery. The Development Finance Corporation will participate and help to establish this fund in collaboration with the government of Ukraine. Today's agreement signals clearly to Russian leadership that the Trump administration is committed to a peace process centered on a free, sovereign, and prosperous Ukraine over the long term.
Under the deal, Ukraine keeps full control of its resources, but shares half of the profits from any new mining projects. The US, on its part, steps in with fresh aid and defense support.
The agreement has changed significantly during the preparations process. It is now truly equitable agreement, one that creates opportunities for sustainable investment in Ukraine. The agreement does not recognize any debt, and fund is being set up, a reconstruction fund that will invest in Ukraine and generate returns here. This means joint work with America, based on firm terms. We spoke with President of the United States, Donald Trump, about readiness to conclude the agreement.
It hasn't been easy getting here. Talks dragged on for months and even sparked tension during a heated Oval Office meeting earlier this year. President Trump called the deal payback for the $350 billion the US has spent on Ukraine. But official numbers put that at about $183 billion since 2022.
This agreement will undoubtedly become the basis for new relations with the United States of America, which we need to protect our statehood in the war and restore our country after this war. From the US, these contributions will be monetary ones or new military assistance, for example, air defense systems. Ukraine's contribution is 50% of the rent from the new concluded agreement. The agreement is fully consistent with the Constitution of Ukraine and does not contradict the national legislation of Ukraine.
With Ukraine sitting on huge reserves of lithium, titanium and rare earth elements, the deal is seen as a big diplomatic win for Kyiv, especially as the war drags on.
Let's catch up on more international news stories making headlines in the News in Brief.
In Sudan, the military announced that the Rapid Support Forces launched their first drone attack on Otman Digna Air Base near Port Sudan Airport. The attack targeted the airbase, a warehouse, and some civilian facilities, with no reported casualties. This is the first RSF strike on the eastern coastal city.
Iran's Civil Defense and Firefighting Organization announced a fire at a motorcycle factory in Mashhad in the south of the country. According to the Iranian news agency, the fire broke out near the electro-steel factory and, though still in its early ages, has spread wildly, destroying a warehouse of tires and cardboard. Meanwhile, local media reported a large explosion that shook Mashhad, Iran's second-largest city.
Pakistan has barred Indian flagged ships from its ports, effective immediately, in response to India's ban on imports and transit from Pakistan. The order also prohibits Pakistani vessels from docking at Indian ports, escalating trade tensions between the two nations.
OPEC Plus has decided to add 411,000 barrels per day to the oil market, starting in June, marking an unexpected shift in the production policy. The 8 member countries agreed in a virtual meeting to accelerate output as part of their plan to gradually ease previous cuts.
And finally, to a lighter note, interactive technology is making waves in the film industry, and the future of storytelling is looking more immersive than ever. Let's take a closer look with Salman Asib.
A fusion of advanced AI entities and bionic humanoids.
Interactive technology is taking the film industry by storm, merging storytelling with audience participation. The 15th Beijing International Film Festival gave us a glimpse into this exciting future, debuting the world's first AI-generated episodic series.
Some shots in this series are quite complex. Moving forward, we will continue to advance our technology to lower the barriers to creative expression and make it more versatile.
The festival also showcased the boundless cinema, offering immersive showrooms that let you choose how to experience the film, whether it's solo viewing, interactive standing sessions, or group explorations in larger spaces.
We've set up demo spaces to showcase the potential of VR theaters. For example, we offer seated viewing, interactive stand-in viewing, and group exploration in large spaces. These different setups open up exciting new ways to use emerging technologies to experience innovative content.
As tech continue to evolve, filmmakers are gaining the tools to craft increasingly innovative and interactive stories. From AI-driven narratives to immersive VR experiences, cinema is becoming more dynamic and personalized than ever before. In fact, augmented reality (AR) is also being used in marketing campaigns, when fans can interact with characters or film environments right from their smartphones or AR glasses. Now, you don't just watch the film, you step into it.
As the dust settles on a world forever changed, a new generation of beings emerges.
That wraps up our news program for tonight. For more updates, you can always check our social media platforms. Thank you for tuning in and good night.